Hello, this is Turbodog702 for RPG Limit Break submissions, continuing with the Shining Force EXA run. Right now we are making our way over to the Magma Prison to save Toma, who was kidnapped into the Land of Fearland. So originally we used to take a side path, and this is the first instance where you'd be able to get access to Avalon as a secret character. Avalon and Garyu, the secret characters, are offered as potential incentives for the run, or bonuses. Shouldn't take too long to get them. Basically, you're just running from place to place, and as you can see, we are very, very strong at this point in the game. Most of the time, we're going to be bypassing most of these guys and breaking generators to get to the next section, just hitting the key points of the Magma Prison. If we did the fire route, many enemies in here are highly resistant to fire or are immune to it. We get around this by the fact that most of the things that we need to actually do are breaking statues or hitting switches. So we don't actually need to kill those things that are highly resistant more often than not. And we definitely don't need to kill anything that's immune to fire at this point. So because of that, we can easily navigate through the Magma Prison even if we had the fire route. So here we are, just very, very rapidly moving across the map. Combination of Sane Armor, Quicksilver, Quickness Ring, Wind Charm, doing really, really good work. I mean, at this point, we are easily up to max movement speed, possibly over cap. But since we might swap out gear here or there, we can't rely on kind of cutting down our speed. And this is still the best gear that we have. So it's not like we're missing out on anything by keeping the gear on. So these statues are a little bit dangerous. As you can see, their fire damage is pretty extensive. They also shoot the fireballs relatively quickly. So you just have to be ready with your finger on healing to heal in case you get a little bit low there. We break the 5 statues in this area in order to open up the central platform. We get trapped off inside of these fire arenas, but all you need to do is break the generator to clear them out. Once we access the center, it's going to spawn a elite, I think it's a Devil Daughter, and you clear that out in order to progress further into Magma Prison. Not Devil Daughter, Devil Son, I think. To go over here, finish off the last of the statues here, break the generator, and continue further into the Magma Prison. In this section, this is the final section of the Magma Prison, you have kind of like 5 different nodes around a central arena point. Your goal is to defeat the bosses of those sections in order to clear firewalls on the way to Toma. So here we're going to make our way down and fight some Devil Brothers. This guy has actually pretty extensive health pool. Because of that, sometimes even a Gaia Nova 3 isn't enough to finish him off. So you might need to clear those enemies in that case. We pick up Quick Swing level 3 to increase Toma's attack speed for his last fight. So right now we picked up all levels of Quick Swing that are available to us at this point. The Devil Daughter, Devil Son are both pretty easy to deal with. You could usually spike them down using only a Gaia Nova 2. Potentially even a Holy 2 for this guy. Devil Sons tend to have really low health. The Life Drinker up here has significantly more health, but she also doesn't have a damage shield, so you can immediately start hitting her and finish her off. After we've done that, we have also not only unlocked the path to Toma, but we've also spawned a ton of lava golems. This is one of the places where you would need to have a secondary magic Usually you'd have an Ice Flame Tome if you were running the fire route, and using Ice Flame, you'd use Freeze 2 to kill off those golems. We also open up the path to the Flame Ancient Arena. So the first floor of Flame Ancient Arena, we actually could use the Fire Book to clear, but the second floor we couldn't. However, what we can do for the second floor is we can use the Necromancer book from before. And since the target is a dragon, dragons tend to take increased damage from dark spells. So what we would do is we would use Necromancer to chain cast Chaos Gate level 2 to AoE through the guys trying to protect him. And that would allow us to kill off the dragon in the middle while still maintaining our fire spell. Since we're running light in this particular run, we can just continuously pulse Holy and clear out the front guys and eventually kill off the dragon. This is the last Ancient Arena we're actually going to do in the entire game. We still have one more Seal of Darkness, but any of the other Ancient Arenas we could go to either wouldn't be worth our time or it would be too time-consuming to run over to. So we're kind of done with the powering up from Ancient Arenas at this point. And in general, we are super strong right now. We're very heavily into Light Spell 5 and 6 at this point. So our magic damage is through the roof. At this point, we are easily sporting endgame light magic damage, so we don't need to worry about our damage too much at all. Immediately burst down Rimshion. That fight, if you use fire, is a little bit more difficult. She is immune to fire, however, your companions should be able to help you in killing her off pretty quickly since they're so overleveled. She takes extra damage from light magic, so Falkland in particular does work on her. Since I have light magic, I can just shoot Gaia Nova and instantly kill her. It is important that if you are running fire that you pay attention to your health. Rimshion has a couple of spells that are pretty devastating magic damage-wise. She has a fire spell similar to Blazing Feather, so it creates multiple very fast-hitting firebolts. And you also have access to this kind of like lightning spell. So what happens is Toma gets seduced by Rimshion by like a charming kiss, and Cyril has to break him out of it. And then once she breaks him out of it, Toma's like, yeah, I don't even know what happened. It's like she kissed me, and then she gets all soon angry at him and like, oh, so you kissed her. Oh, must like monster girls. Don't know why I came here, and then left, and then... Yeah, I really don't like Cyril's character in this game. Like, she has her moments, again, like, there are good character-defining moments for her, but in general, she is, pretty bad. She's not a nice person. So, now that that plan has failed, Rimshion has, kind of decided to take a different approach. So, Chapter 12. Chapter 12, if you recall, Ragnadam gave Cyril the Imperial Jewel that allows someone to come into the Noswald Castle Keep. It's now up to you to choose which character will take it. In this case, we're going to take Cyril. This is another chapter where the fire route could gain significant time over the light route. Pretty much everything inside the Noswald Empire is weak to fire. And again, since you can just run with Inferno on, you can kill things very quickly and continue to move forward. So here, I'm just randomly identifying items, and I actually get a Royal Crown with a plus 30% magic power. And that's what I mean. Like, if I didn't get it from Borne, there's a fair chance that eventually I would get magic power as well. And with that, I have now gotten access to basically all of the tools I need to finish the game gear-wise. We are still going to manipulate one last item, but that manipulation is very easy and very likely to work within the first 3 attempts. But, you know, between our awesome bracelet, our Gaia Codex, our Saint armor and the headpiece with increased magic power. We're in it now. Like we are so strong. So right here, we are going to be kind of finishing up the last little bit of things. So here I tend to go pretty even with Light Spell 5 and 6. Like, as long as the costs are equal, I kind of do one and the other. In the future, I might focus on Light 6 a little bit more extensively comparative to 5. But this felt just right, and quite frankly, again, I'm so strong right now that it doesn't matter too much how I approach the game. Like, I just got to make sure that I watch out for a few dangerous screens and make sure that I am running correctly and casting spells efficiently and managing my resources appropriately. So we return to the ice fort, and it turns out, just on the other side of a fence that was locked when we went here with Duga, is the entrance to Noswald Castle. And you get a nice little cutscene where it shows the Great Bridge and the city of Noswald, but we skip over that relatively quickly. So at this point, our spell damage is so high that I can pulse Holy and kill crystals. Like, I don't even need to use multi-hit moves in order to break them, which is pretty nice, saves quite a bit of time and mana. Gaia Nova is pretty extensive on MP use. We kill the cannons here because the cannons actually drop a fair amount of mithril themselves, anywhere between 3 to 5,000. Had I considered this a little bit more, I probably wouldn't have even done that and just rushed more. And as I continue to go into Noswald, I start to get more and more aggressive with skipping possible resources. Because I start to realize, like, this run is going places. Like, I have all the tools I need. I don't need to mess around with extra upgrades. Like at this point, if you have 3,000 light magic, you can pretty comfortably defeat the last boss in the game in the kind of time limit that gives you. You do want to have about 7,000 spell power to be able to spike down the mid bosses in the final dungeon, though. So, but I mean, once you hit those kind of breakpoints, you're free to go. This is another indication that tells me that I'm super strong. If I can pulse Holy and break those computer monitors in a single cast, that means I am very, very strong right now. Normally it could take 2 or 5. If it does 2, then I'm still pretty strong. If it takes 5, then it means I have a little bit of work to do. And I think that just has to do not only with the amount of hits you do, but I get the feeling that items have properties perhaps similar to regenning monsters and generators. Like, if you can hit them hard enough, they'll just break. Like, you won't need to hit them multiple times. So these kind of spark posts will constantly shoot out lightning, but that's not a big deal for us. As long as you clear the monster generators and the berserker in that room, then you're safe to go. Here we enter this side door because you need to clear it in order to access the further platforms. So this map, the intent is that you're supposed to go to a few different areas and clear the enemies so that you disable ice mines that head to the next part of the Noswald Castle. We don't actually need to do that because these mines have a set time limit on them, so we can actually run past them and just clear the boss that opens up the door here. And as long as we pay attention and don't get spiked by the ice mines, like, there's not really anything that they can do to hurt us. So it's very safe to do that. Here we have to go off to the side and up the stairs. I go over here to clear these guys to get rid of a little bit of lag for later on. But we go up the stairs because we have to hit a switch at the end of these platforms in order to progress on. So as you can see, a lot of military might in Oswald, a lot of cannons, a lot of beastmen and wolf barons. Probably should have invested in some magic resist, though. At least fire resist. Here we shoot off screen. That shot from Gaianova killed a frost golem that was off screen. So funny enough, you actually can shoot things that are off screen to some extent. It tends to work a lot better against larger enemies than smaller ones. So coming up to the next portion here, got to clear out this berserker in order to open up the gate behind him. And we're going to come up to a samurai. So this samurai, normally at this point, your defense is high enough that he's not going to give you issues. But I try not to risk it. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and pulse my holy spell a little bit early, so that if he does try to aggressively rush me, then he's going to run into holy and get knocked up and get stopped. Funny enough, that prison of rock behind the samurai contains a way, way more powerful samurai than that guy. It's kind of funny. Another samurai to deal with here. Yeah, and here, like, this is just kind of autopiloting. Like, I had already known that I was strong enough, but this is just something that I did so commonly, was breaking those to pick up a little bit of extra mithril. Definitely something I would tighten up going forward. Very easy to clear out these dragons. Again, our spell power is just out of control right now. You have to clear these dragons in order to open up the gates. This is the most direct path that you can take in order to get to the next section, is kind of this circuitous moving through different cells across this rig. So in the next room, we're going to have an Arch Lotus. We're going to be shooting Gaianova off screen to kill him. If we had fire, we would probably make a save for this guy, because even though he's weak to it, we would have to get in melee range, and this guy's melee range and dive attack are actually pretty strong. So you do need to respect them to some extent. But with Gaianova, you can just shoot him across the screen. We will open up these chests. One of them is going to contain a light charm. That is going to be the last one of the game. Last one we're going to pick up, at least, I should say. Have to enter the side rooms here and break all of the machines. Breaking the machines disables a electrical trap that blocks the way to the throne room. I have theorized that it might be possible to use a light charm to bypass the trap, or get high enough stun resist that maybe you could run through it, but I haven't done sufficient testing on that. And quite frankly, I don't think you'd really want to blow a charm of light on something that's already pretty fast. See, normally those things would be shooting lightning 24/7. So this is another point where you can lose time for light compared to fire. The reason for that is fire can run right up to Ragnadom and start destroying him. Ragnadom is weak to fire. Light spell, Ragnadom is immune to light, so you can't really bully him with that. For that reason, we equip the Aurora Bow. We're going to count on our companions to do a good amount of damage, and we're just going to kind of plink away at him with the bow until he falls down. Much faster fight with fire, but definitely a safe fight. The one thing that Ragnadom can do here that's dangerous is if he does this spread fire move. It's like a 360-degree blaze bow charge attack. He just did it right there. If he does that close to you, it just instantly one-shots you. So you want to make sure that you have a little bit of distance between you and him, because you need to be able to heal up that damage. That being said, he telegraphs it pretty heavily. So, I mean, as long as you're putting a little bit of distance and you stay moving, you should be fine. Like here, for example, I'm trying to get my companions between me and him so that they can soak up some of the missiles in case he is too aggressive with it. Amatiliri's a pretty good pick here because she has fire magic. Falkland is a bad pick because, you know, he's immune to holy. So that's going to do it for Chapter 12. A relatively quick chapter. So Chapter 13. Chapter 13 is where the fire route really runs into problems. Chapter 13 goes further into Fearlent to go into the Crimson Palace. And in that time, you're going to run into way more enemies that are resistant to fire or immune to fire. So because of that, there is a section where we're going to have to invest in ice in order to clear out magma golems if I did the fire route. For light, it's pretty straightforward. You run light. Both get a little bit of darkness so that they can deal with a pair of mithril golems a little later in the dungeon. But yeah, just this is probably, I want to say, the longest dungeon in the game. Simply because there's a lot of rooms to clear. Even if you know exactly where to go, there's just a lot of things to do. So there is one other thing that we're going to do, and we're going to be coming up to, in a little bit, the final manipulation of gear. Depending on how strong your Sane armor is, this isn't necessarily a guaranteed manipulation that you need to do either. But I like to do it because it's a very short time investment, and it gets Toma a good piece of gear as well. So he has something that he can fall back on later on. So another thing I like to do is if there ever is a thing that has like a huge amount that you need to identify it for, it means it has good properties on it. So I always like to kind of check those properties also to see if there's something I can use. So here, I check these. I like after this, I think I comment. I'm like, why am I even checking this? Because I already have what I need. So it's just, again, old habits dying hard. So we drop the Imperial Jewel and the Darkness Rune inside of storage along with the Light Charm, since we're not going to use any of those until the end of the game. Put Falkland in our party. Falkland's light magic is going to be integral to assisting with damage inside of the area. We can clear a lot of stuff on our own, but having him cast some magic or give us heals here and there is always kind of a welcome thing. So here I check between the difference between Quickness Ring and Mithril Ring. The Mithril Ring has double HP 60, while the Quickness Ring only had HP 61. But the Quickness Ring gives you so much more spell power that I was like, I want to keep the Quickness Ring. It's worthwhile. So at this point, we can also kind of get rid of a lot of our extra gear that we've been holding around. Pick up another rank of stun resist just so that I don't need to worry about that stopping me. There's a fair amount of enemies that can kind of slow your progression in here. So here I'm going ahead and putting on Oracle Shield onto my new Ruin Chain. Ruin Chain is second best shield in the game, next to Holy Chain, which you don't get until later. Ruin Chain is basically a buffed up magic chain where you get increased magic damage and resistance by equipping it. We shoot the cannon over the cliff there because we actually are able to break a wall at the bottom. That allows us to clear the wall before we get to it. Otherwise, we would have had to have waited for the shot to come down from the Geofortress. Nice little optimization from Norn there that he had mentioned. Yeah, this is just making our way up the mountain, up to the Crimson Palace. We skip over a lot of stuff. This used to be a place where we would make some detours to get some extra power items. But again, so much of this route has been just completely reworked and redone multiple times. And at this point, I'm kind of glad with where it's at. Again, my biggest thing would be trimming the fat and seeing what our exact breakpoints are at certain areas. But as far as how powerful we feel, how safe we are in the route, hitting objectives as quickly as possible, I think we did a pretty good job given the time frame. Still very much looking forward to... I mentioned Norn's fan club from GameFAQs. Very much looking forward to anything regarding his segmented route of this game. Even an in-game time would be interesting to me, because as I mentioned, the in-game time tends to be pretty reflective of RTA, as long as you don't do resets or deaths. So, kind of interested what he's pushing, as he is doing a bow-centered route from the last that I heard from him. So that Power Stone that we passed before taking that teleporter had Frost 4. So it's not until this late in the game that you get access to level 4 Frost and level 4 Darkness magic. So as I mentioned before, your only two really viable options for magic are Light, because of the rubber banding glitch, and Fire, because you get Fire 4 faster than anything else. Dark spells tend to be strong even if you only get 3 ranks of it. But the thing is you don't really get any good dark spell books until Necromancer in Chapter 10. Also, Chaos Gate and dark spells tend to take a lot of mana. Very mana intensive. So we're now making our way into the Crimson Palace. In this next area, we have to clear some mid-bosses so that we gain access to some defensive crystals. Those defensive crystals block the central teleport spire that leads further into the Crimson Palace. But first, we actually go to Falkland's house here. In Falkland's house, we get Radiant Saint, which is his best offensive gear possible, and we get a bunch of gold out of the chest. So pretty nice. We don't need to immediately identify that, but we do want to get him on that kind of when possible. Gives him access to some really nice spells. So, side note, it is possible that you can take a more central route and kind of cut across the circumference of this area. However, doing so runs you the risk of getting surrounded by enemies and having to clear them. You can get locked off by trap gates that you need to clear enemies in, and in that case, if you miss an enemy, you might have to backtrack and run past. I find it's much easier to just go around the entire perimeter. It's a little slower optimally, but I think that you hedge your bets against something blocking your path. If you get blocked too many times, you're going to start losing time pretty quickly. So this guy has so much HP that you can't really reasonably spike him, as with the other mini bosses in this area. So we're coming up to the Devil Blacksmith. Devil Blacksmith is an interesting chap. He will take your initial armor at the very beginning of the game, the white dress or the wild vest, and he will actually improve it into a preset attribute bonus type. So what can happen is when he forges it, it can be +0, +4, 5, 6, any of those. What we want to do is we want Cyril's white coat to get turned into a +4 or higher. This is pretty reliable within 3 attempts or less. Toma, we want to increase his Wild Vest to Wild Vest 2, but we really don't care if he gets a higher quality of it. If it's just the basic Wild Vest 2, we're fine with that. And that's going to assist him with his progression into the late game. So there, white dress, he gave us a +0, so we reset. Other things to know about these items is they give a speed boost, and they are guaranteed to have 2 properties. They're guaranteed to have resist darkness ++, and they're guaranteed to have HP +60%. They're also stronger defensively than a high-level Saint armor. They're absolutely phenomenal, and they're guaranteed to have these properties. I figured that for just the small time investment it takes to move over there, that it's worthwhile to do this manipulation. And as mentioned, it's pretty quick. You don't need to worry too much about Toma. It's funny, I never need to worry about Toma, but it seems like he almost always gets a +4 or higher on his first attempt, which is kind of funny. The reason why we want to get a higher quality as opposed to raising it in the blacksmith ourselves is the white coat 2 takes a lot of money to upgrade even a single point, let alone once you start getting to +3 and +4. You'd much rather take that money other places. But yeah, so here I identify Radiant Saint. And just kind of working through my inventory here. So all of the manipulations are done now. So starting from the beginning, we need to manipulate for a Machine Buster and a Crush Ring. Then we are manipulating for either a Fire or Light Book inside of Steel Arena. And then lastly, we are manipulating for a +30 or 40% bracelet at the bottom of Steel Arena. After that, we need to manipulate for the Saint Armor with HP plus, and finally manipulate white dress +4, 5, or 6 from this guy. And again, the longest manipulation and the ones that have the most variance are those initial ones in the Steel Ancient Arena. In the case of that, I feel confident that, like, if that's kind of an issue, I feel like I could pre-bake a save. Pre-baking a save, I'd officially do all of the Ancient Steel Arena just to show that it's possible. And then I would load the pre-baked save that would have already had whatever it is, either the Gaia Codex or the Fire book, and a Spell Power Bracelet. So I wouldn't need to manipulate any of that. If I was allowed a pre-bake save, then I could easily cut the estimate by quite a bit. The estimate is very generous based on the fact that the manipulation could take time. So if we did like a 10 or a 15-minute time limit on the manipulation, or even like 20 minutes, and then I could load my save, then awesome. But I'll leave that up to you guys on the committee to decide. So these guys with the hammers can be pretty dangerous. They do a lot of damage, but we're really, really strong right now in this case, so we don't need to worry about them doing too much damage. These Medusas can petrify. If they petrify you and you get a string of crits, you can take a lot of damage, but I don't think you're really in any danger of dying. I take the side path here to get the Power Art Stone for Dark Magic 4. In retrospect, after like kind of working with it a little bit, I kind of feel like maybe I could skip Dark 4. And the reason for that is with full Dark Magic 1 through 3, I'm still hitting pretty hard, and I only need it for a select few encounters. So it almost seems like a waste to spend this extra, 20 seconds running down this hall, and the extra time raising Dark Magic itself. So that's something that I've definitely considered cutting from the route. The big question being is, does it save 20 seconds in the final 2 encounters that you use it? And I'm not necessarily convinced it does. So just making our way around the perimeter here. The point is that we have to go around the perimeter to reach a door near where we entered, funny enough. Basically, there's a locked door between you and the exit, and it requires you to go all around the circumference of this room in order to get to the exit. If we could find some way to like clip through the door or something, this floor would be done basically instantly. Nice off-screen kill shot on the Sparks demon there. So in this area, we need to pull 2 switches on opposite ends of this chamber in order to raise a stone bridge out of the molten lava. I have no idea how a stone bridge exists in molten lava, but I guess magic or something. I mean, this is the land of the Magnus, so they probably have pretty good magic. Pretty good magic. This trip to the side seems like a bit of a stretch based on what I have right now, but that's also like almost 100k mithril, so a lot of mithril on the table there, and I didn't really want to give it up. So Devil Mothers, which was that goat-headed winged demon that I killed there, those used to be extremely dangerous in Neo. A lot less dangerous in EXA. I don't think I've ever been petrified from them, and they used to be able to do that. They also used to have substantial damage with fire attacks that would like explode in huge geysers of fire, and they used to have a multi-hitting lightning spell that did quite a bit of damage. In this game, like I said, I haven't seen Petrify, and it seems like their magic damage was turned down considerably, which is definitely for the better, because they were brutal to fight in Neo. So going ahead and pulling the lever and getting the bridge out of the lava so that we can progress into the next floor. And at the center there, we are going to run into an Elite Devil Mother. The Elite Devil Mother has quite a bit of health. It's not like a super long fight, but a little longer with fire. With light magic, since devils are weak to light, this is a pretty quick fight, especially with Gaia Nova 3 backing me up. So getting that mithril there, again, about another 100k that we can just scoop up. So here, we need to take this central path heading down left and take it all the way to the end to find the exit. However, there are these doors blocking the path. So in order to get past them, we have to light torches and take side rooms, clearing arenas as we go. So these lava golems are the specific reason you need ice magic if you have the fire route. You They're completely immune to fire, and they occupy large portions of the screen. And you have to clear bunches of them in order to progress past the bridge section just after this arena. With light, not an issue at all. Just pulse a bunch of light, and ends up clearing them just fine. Now, here's the reason you need dark magic. I mentioned mithril golems before, and this is our first occurrence of one. Mithril golems are completely immune to light, and they're extremely damage resistant to anything but dark magic, including physical attacks. So we spawn him, equip Necromancer Book, and shoot Dark Arrow. As mentioned, Dark Arrow is a multi-hitting dark element move. And that allows us to clear him out relatively quick. And I mean, that was a pretty quick fight, and that was only with level 3 dark magic. And that's why I'm not necessarily convinced having level 4 would be a huge boon to me. We take this side path, because this Path of Carnage leads to, I think, about 200k mithril. Yeah, so huge portion of mithril there that you can pick up. And oh no, enemies! They've trapped us in. Well, they haven't really, because we just run past them. Another room coming up where, again, fire would be a liability. You have to have access to absolute zero for ice magic. Right here. And then once again, another mithril golem. We do need to be careful of the mithril golems here. Even though we have high defense, mithril golems hit like trucks. So we want to kind of play the ranged game against them. Even if it seems like we have a lot of defense, we do need to hedge for safety in that case. Nice and easy, progressing on, continuing to clear arenas, and make our way further and further down this snaking path. Again, like, it would be so awesome if we found like a wall clip, because we could just clip through all of these doors heading to the bottom. But I have not spent a significant portion of time glitch finding in this game. Just been really working again on the route and the macro of the game rather than the micro and glitch finding. So this room's a little bit dangerous. It has a Vampire Lord. As mentioned, Vampire Lords can petrify you, and they have very high attack damage. That charge attack that he does with the lunge is also multi-hitting. It's similar to the drill attack I mentioned with Harpy Lords. So final things, and we open the path towards the end. Final middle boss to take care of before we finish up this chapter is going to be a Elite Life Drinker. This one has way too much health to spike down. Even with our huge portion of light magic and her somewhat weakness to light magic, her HP total is just too high. So we're going to have to clear her ads before engaging in her. That is a consistent helmet that drops out of that torch, by the way. For type, not attributes, I should say. So now we head to the throne room. So this is another area where going up and left and down and right lead to different mithril deposits. This is the larger mithril deposit going this way, so I go for this one. And I decide to skip going to the one at the bottom right because I have enough power. I have resigned myself to this at this point. And once we go in here, you find that the door at the bottom of the Magic's Keep that was sealing away Malzatra has been opened. And now the legions are spewing out of it. So now this portal connected to Dusk in the alternate dimension is now spewing out the evil minions of Malzatra. So quickly we kind of help Rimshion. And now Rimshion's like, damn, this thing's open. Well, now we got to figure out what we're going to do. And now Ragna's like, haha, I escaped and found my way down here. Thanks for killing all of the armies on the way down here, you idiot. And then you're like, damn, that sucks. And then Rimshion's like, what are you doing here, you idiot? And he's like, I've come to stop you. You Magnus worship Malzatra. You're the ones that led to this war and all of this chaos happening. She's like, no, you're an idiot. We used our magic to seal away Malzatra with your ancestors. What are you, an idiot? And then Ragnadom's like, I'm an idiot. Oh well, so Gusk is open, and we have to delay them while the Heritors, the wielders of the Shining Force, figure out what they're going to do. So, realizing that it's their fault that they're big dumb idiots starting a war over actually nothing, they both decide to enter the Gusk to try and distract and delay Malzatra. So they take the portal to the Gusk and then close the door from the inside. Because what a great door, right? A door that you can only close from the inside. Or, like I understand if you could only open it from the outside, but you can only close it from the... whatever. Anyway, Gusk emerges from Mount Fearlent, and it is an enormous, enormous airship. I forget exactly what Zena says, but he says it's something like 200,000 times the mass of the Geofortress. And you look at the Geofortress, and the Geofortress like covers a mountainside. So this thing is like a continent just flying out over the sky and just releasing all types of evil from Malzatra's minions all over the place. So, Lacton Village has become the home of some of the legions. Those stones appear all over the map at this point, and they summon legions all over. Now, the intent is you're supposed to use the Geofortress cannon to blow those up so that you kind of end the infestation or end the invasion. Funny enough, you actually don't need to do that, and I found that out. You do need to do this initial section, though. So what this initial section is you need to save Lacton Village. However, the teleporter is down at Lacton Village now. It was damaged during the fighting. So because of that, we're going to have to head back through Gundester Cavern and use a back route to enter Lacton Village from the graveyard. So this is the first chapter where you'd have access to Gaia Codex in the shop. So yeah, we have finally hit the point where we have weapons that the game thinks we should have. And yeah, it doesn't matter because we have access to magic that we really shouldn't have at this point either. The level 6 light magic that you get from Falkland, again, is meant to be more of a New Game Plus thing. In general, you'd be lucky to hit level 100 your first playthrough before New Game Plus. More often than not, you'd probably hit level 80 or 90 without excessive grinding. But since we can do that rubber banding glitch all the way back in Chapter 6, Falkland gains enough to get Light Spell 6, which is basically New Game Plus equivalent magic. So Cyril just kind of girl-trotting her way to the end. I like that the white dress gets upgraded as well. I actually really like its visual design, and it's kind of cool to revisit it near the end of the game. I do like the way the Saint armor looks. Really, the armor that Cyril gets all looks pretty sweet. I don't really like the Venture gear, which is unfortunate, but yeah, between like Witch's Cloak, Angel Wings, Saint armor, white dress, she's got some pretty cool looking stuff. So now the legions have invaded the Ancient Ruin Temple. And the Ancient Ruin Temple has a side path that allows you to enter Lacton Village via an underground graveyard path. But first, We need to clear out these legions, otherwise they are blocking our path towards the exit. So as you can see, kind of pulsing with Holy does a number on these guys. The Legion commanders here, this one is weak, which is why we kill them off screen. But the next couple of them actually take significant portions of spell power to be able to kill, even with Gaia Nova 3. And because we want to try to conserve our MP a little bit here, it's usually better to just invest in holying this group. Like there, I tried to spike him, and I just didn't have enough. So making our way to the last of the Legion commanders before we hit the central platform. And we need to clear these out. Originally, I thought that you might be able to exit to the right, but you actually do need to clear out these legions. Luckily, it's as simple as pulsing Holy a couple times. After that, we are going to use Gaia Nova to spike the generator here, so we don't need to clear the minions. Actually, we used Holy there, because we were able to hit it just hard enough that it doesn't matter. So you saw that stone in the middle there. You're supposed to use the cannon to break those, and originally I thought you had to for this one and the one in Lacton Village, but I discovered you can just run past them. And for Lacton Village, you just need to clear the town of the legions. You don't need to actually break the thing causing the legions to come. Which sounds like, you know, treating the symptoms rather than the causes, like by definition. Like, you're clearing out all the legions, but you still are leaving the thing that is literally warping and making legions appear in the town. Like, great long-term planning there. But we're speedrunners, not city planning. So here it's kind of important to clear Lacton Village in a little bit of a structured way, because if you don't, then you could easily miss an enemy and spend time kind of running around trying to figure out which guy you missed. Those kind of big shell-looking guys that are gray and striped, their tongues that they shoot out can actually petrify you. So that's a little dangerous. More of an issue inside of Neo than EXA, but something to keep in mind whenever you're encountering them. These guys with the dangly arms that fly, their attacks can actually do quite a bit of damage. I think they have some type of piercing property, either elemental damage or just ignore some portion of defense. Because they always seem to hit, not like super hard, but they always seem to hit for noticeable damage. So, now that we did this, basically Cyril reveals the Curse of the Heritors, which is the only way to fight Malzatra is to have both Shining Forces. That's the only way to unlock its godlike power, which is needed to fight Malzatra. But since each of them already have the Holy Sword, the only way to get access to the full Shining Force is one needs to kill the other. If one Heritor kills the other, they can draw the second Holy Sword and combine them to defeat Malzatra. To this point in the game, that is what we are led to believe is the reason that there's only one Heritor left at any given time. This is a hilarious prospect when you have Avalon, since Avalon is a former Heritor and never thinks to mention this to you. But, you know, I guess he was just hoping for the best. So here, this is the last menu we're going to do for Toma. Since he's not going to be able to use any of this, we're going to go ahead and use his Mithril to leapfrog levels for Cyril, so that she gets access to the most powerful stuff she can defensively. And then we're also going to raise his weapon attack and quick swing ability. The reason for that is Toma is going to need to kill a robot that has armor, which is why we're getting Robot Killer and Armor Killer. Those modify the damage that you physically do to monsters, which is why we don't pick them up with Cyril. We access up to Master Guard 9, so that Cyril has it. Here I tried to max out on Dark Magic 4, so that Cyril gets Dark Magic 5, but I realize I don't have enough. Another reason why I'm thinking about cutting it from the route is just why even deal with it if it's going to take too much Mithril to address it. At this point, I put the Wild Vest on Toma. I gave him the Chaos Breaker. I even changed his shield since I found a pretty decent one. I gave him the Geo Headguard. The reason I gave him the Geo Headguard is that gives you a damage bonus to robots. And I'm spending a little bit of Mithril here to make sure that Gentetsu can raise items up to level 10. You could go higher than level 10, presumably, but I think your money is set up in such a way at this point that you wouldn't really get enough to get past level 10. So, any more than that seems like a waste. So now we get on Cyril. And one of the only ways to access the Gusk now that the portal in Fearlent is closed is to go into the Ordeals of the Force, which you can reach inside the Geo Fortress. In order to do that, you have to go through the Ordeals, which is 5 floors of a dungeon. And at the bottom of that is the portal which leads into Gusk, that will take you straight to the realm of Melzatra. Okay. These are similar to Dimension X. It is only 5 floors. One of those is the boss floor, so that is predetermined. The other 4 are randomly generated. So over the entire run, we have 8 randomly generated floors in Dimension X, and 4 randomly generated floors inside of Ordeals. Ordeals is another place where fire could gain some time, because once again, you have full movement speed while Inferno is going. It'll break through boxes, it'll kill things. And funny enough, a lot of the enemies inside of the Ordeals are frost-based for some reason, so fire does a number on them. As mentioned, I do not recall my Ordeals and my Dimension X going particularly well on this run. But that happens. Like, I already know immediately, usually the first floor you go to is a pretty short one, but this is an extended map from what I saw. So I already know that I'm in for a doozy here. So the mithril deposits in the Ordeals in Dimension X aren't particularly fruitful to kind of farm. And at this point I already have enough strength that I don't really need to deal with it anyway. Something interesting about Ordeals. The Ordeals you can't return back to base. It disables it and you have to go into them alone. After you do Ordeals, whoever you choose to go into the Ordeals of the Force is the character that you're going to do the rest of the game with. And we're going to see why when we hit that portal to Melzatra. So I'm basically just doing my best to hedge my bets and check the map and see if I can quickly identify a path that's going to take me towards an exit or something that looks like the exit. I recall this, I think this first floor I actually go through almost every single room before I find the exit, which is terrible luck. So just kind of continuing on, going through rooms. The run speed really helps here, as I'm sure you can tell. Just making sure that you're kind of moving from place to place. So literally the worst. Just the last room on the map. So floor 2, just kind of move on and same idea. Just kind of work around, see if you can find that exit as soon as you can. Funny enough, I can actually get Toma gear to drop in here despite the fact that I won't be using Toma for the rest of the game. So it's kind of weird how the the end game of this game works out from a casual perspective. But yeah, so there's an example of me using the map to see the exit on the other side of a wall. So I hadn't actually gone into that room with the exit portal, but I saw from the other side of the map where it was at. So I could make an educated guess on how to get there. All right. So third floor, more of the same. Once we reach the fourth floor, we're going to have another one of those cross section layouts that I referred to, where there's four directions and you start in the center and you have to pick one. Luckily, we don't get the lower floors inside of this. This is a fairly straightforward and short dungeon as a result. It kind of has to be, though. The enemies here are also maybe a little bit weaker than you might think for being an endgame dungeon. But that's due to the fact that you can't return to base, so you can't refill your healing water or goddess tears. So they have to make it a little bit easier. And they drop goddess fountains that are one-time use in here as well to assist you. Like, it'll be a goddess fountain that once you proc it once and refill your stuff, then it just disappears. But yeah, a lot of ice columns here that would get destroyed by fire had I had it. So four corner room. I believe I actually get the worst luck here. I think I take all four paths before I find the right one. So I take that one. Luckily, that was a short path, so I was like, okay, well, that was short, even if it was the wrong way. I found the exit portal relatively quickly. Found the exit portal for that one. That was a little bit worse, just because I had to clear a little bit more enemies. Continuing on here. Go to the side, have to break some pots. Again, something that Inferno would help out with magic. So yeah, sure enough, last random floor, worst luck. Pretty amazing. So at the bottom here, we are going to get into a fight with a Frost Demon. This Frost Demon is somewhat dangerous. He has a move where he shoots a kind of barrage of icicles at you. This does a lot of damage, and it happens very quickly. It will kill you if you do not heal during it. So it's important to either dodge it, mitigate the damage by only taking a couple of the shots, or heal aggressively through it. Luckily, with the light magic build, we can kind of use Gaia Nova to snipe him from a distance. So it greatly reduces the chances of that happening. He dies very quickly to fire magic, but at the same time, by moving close to him, you present yourself to the robots next to him. Those robots can petrify, and he could always turn and shoot icicles, and the icicles kind of home in on you, like he has a good tracking. So if you're close to him and he starts icicle shooting, you might not have time to react to heal yourself. So this is the portal to Malzatra's Gusk, to the realm of him. And what happens is during this cutscene, whoever you pick decides to surrender, and they basically say, just slay me and go on, you know, I care about you, I love you type of thing. I want you to survive. And so in this case, Toma totally bodies Cyril, despite the fact that we haven't been using him the whole game. But funny enough, you can tell that she's breathing on the ground if you're paying attention, which you might go like, oh, well, that's just the game, limitations of the game engine. Nope, Cyril is actually alive. Toma had decided to knock her out, or Cyril decides to knock out Toma, and try to take on Malzatra using only the power of a single Shining Force. So this is the reason why we needed to upgrade Toma. You can die in this section. But since we got him some better armor, we made sure to upgrade his stats and stuff. We're pretty safe here. It's extremely unlikely that you would die before hitting the boss you need to fight here. Not only are you stronger than most of these enemies, but Rimshion also has a heal that she can use, that she does pretty aggressively if you start to drop low on health. But we take a couple small side trips inside of here to pick up some mithril. We're going to be going through this same place as Cyril, but by picking up this mithril right now, we can use it immediately on Cyril rather than waiting on it for later. And we're going to get in and fight Malzatra. So what type of evil thing might Malzatra be? It's very exciting, I'm sure. So you go in here and you actually find out that it's a dude with a big buster sword. And what they basically say is that this isn't necessarily Malzatra, it's the avatar of Malzatra. And you need to fight it. Funny enough, it shares a lot of the same model as Max from Shining Force Neo, your main character in that game. More recycling of assets. So this guy hits pretty hard, so you do need to watch your health a little bit, but this is a very fast fight, as you can tell. And again, if you do kind of get spiked down, sometimes Rimshion will save you with a heal if you didn't get to your healing water fast enough. So after this fight, you are met with the true form of Malzatra. And since you do not have the full godlike powers of the completed Shining Force, you stand no chance of fighting him. Both Ragnadam and Rimshion are brought to their knees and succumb to the power of the darkness of Malzatra. And that's what it looks like. It's basically ghost, robot, evil thing. And because you do not have it, he is completely invincible to your attacks, and he will kill you in a single move. So you cannot defeat Malzatra at that point. So now, you cut back to the other character who is still alive. Now, unfortunately, the portal to Malzatra is now unusable at the bottom of the ordeals. I don't remember the justification, but it is justified inside of the game. So they're like, how are we supposed to get to Malzatra to rescue Toma? And he goes like, are you sure he's not just dead? And he's like, no, we need to rescue him. So Cyril goes to Toma's room. And sure enough, Toma's sword is now at the altar. Once she picks it up, the Shining Force is cleansed of its Curse of the Heritor. Because it was obtained without bloodshed to get both swords. Both of the swords then unlock the godlike power of Shining Force and allow the Geofortress to turn into a spaceship. I'm not kidding. It's basically a spaceship. Spaceship that looks like a sword. And using this spaceship sword thing, you're able to fly into the heart of Malzatra's Gusk and start your assault on the evil overlord. So, some things that we need to get. We need to pull those light charms out of the inventory, because this is the end of the game. Gotta burn them, right? We also need to finish up kind of leveling up our last bit of power for Cyril, because we don't really want to return and raise up our strength anymore. The only time we want to return is if we need to fill up our consumables. So this is just some last minute selling of items so that we can potentially gain some money. We even sell off our Aurora bow and such so that we have extra money to improve our Gaia Codex or our Royal Crown, that is extra spell power. So we get a level 10 Gaia Codex. We also have the Holy Chain. I didn't mention that Holy Chain is a guaranteed drop at the bottom of the ordeals. And it's a very, very good shield. It actually gives you like a 500 defense increase. It's pretty crazy. So one of the other things we got at the bottom of there is finally something to replace the MP on our headdress. And we got Magic of Insanity. So Magic of Insanity greatly increases your magic damage, but it also greatly reduces your health. You lose like 1,000 to 2,000 health by equipping it. So we are considerably less tanky now than we were before, but our magic damage has gone through the roof as a result of it. This increase in magic damage is important because the enemies inside of Gusk have quite a bit of health, and we want to spike down as many of the mini-bosses as we can. And in order to do that, you need to have access to Magic of Insanity. You're talking about a difference of like 1,500 to 2,000 spell power by equipping it. So here we're turning on our new abilities for our companions. Maybell gets her Archer Stand, which is her best defensive skill set. We put on Radiant Sight on Falkland so he can deal with that. So the Gusk. First floor of the Gusk, we get to see that most of the Gusk's people inside of it are going to be robots. Other things inside of here are going to be a few giants and a couple of golems here and there, but most of the things we're fighting are going to be robots. These Darkstalkers that are hitting me from the ground are super jerks. They are immune to light. So if we get surrounded by them, it can be kind of painful getting out of them. Rather annoying. If we don't have enough spell power to kill these guys using Holy, spiking them down, the large kind of bulbous robots, we can use Gaia Nova instead, and that'll guaranteed be enough to spike them out. There was Mithril to the bottom left there that we could potentially get if we were short on it, but again, at this point, like, I knew it was in the bag. We have as much as we need. So I'm smoking these, like, large floating, they're called Lotus robots, but I do need to be careful. They do have a fair amount of physical attack, and those special ones with the huge double swords have a charge explosion move. That charge explosion move can kill you in about 1 second. So that is a point of danger inside of this run. However, I'm pushing to get this as low as I can here. So instead of saving for safety, I mean, I'm just going at this point. I would also make a save at this point. This is a Nightmare Golem. Nightmare Golems are extremely resistant to all forms of magic and damage. Light is their least resistant thing, and since we're so strong with light, we use it anyway. This is another one of those super dangerous Arc Lotuses I mentioned. However, we're strong enough that we can spike them down. This was one of the biggest changes, is Gusk used to be a really, really dangerous area, but ever since we kind of worked out a more structured route for spellcasting damage, it definitely helped. We're able to spike down monsters that were real problems before. So, funny enough, those lizard knights are, I believe, immune to fire, so you can't use fire to clear them out. That's why late game you tend to push to light, because Gaia Nova is a very, very powerful ability, as is Holy too, and those are the ones that you need in order to kind of finish off Malzatra. Kill off the Dragon Bot there, because we're going to have to go past him anyway, and he can be pretty dangerous. These large elite dragon robots that I'm going to meet in the next few rooms, they can kill you in about 1.5 seconds if they do their melee peck move. Because of that, we keep our distance, and we try to snipe them out with Gaia Nova. And as we get further in, we are actually going to invest a light charm on one of them, just to make sure that nothing crazy happens. But that snipe's pretty easy. Usually they move in such a way that they don't get blocked by monsters. Here's another guy here. So that was a peck move, but that guy is not like the super elites that were guarding inside of that arena that I had fought. So it would have been painful, but I would have survived. This is a somewhat dangerous room. This Valkyrie, in addition to shooting Gaia Nova, can shoot like kind of that same icicle attack that the Frost Demon could shoot that I mentioned. Except hers creates kind of like glacial spikes on the ground. So I clear out these guys because if I don't, they follow me up to this staircase and block me on the way back. So it's better to just take them out there where I have plenty of room. So we go ahead and blow a Charm of Light here just to make sure we get this snipe in. Because sometimes his companions can body block for him. Going across here, we use a defense charm. There's a couple of elite vampire lords, and if they petrify you, then it's possible you can die. They do a lot of damage, but as long as you have the defense charm up, you're pretty safe. Extra mithril down there near that Valkyrie as well if we had needed it. So this is the last section of Dusk. Or the Gusk. So we need to clear out these idiots. These are a bunch of mithril golems. This is another section where you need Necromancer for Chaos Gate. Chaos Gate and Dark Magic are the fastest way to clear out this section, and you have to do so in order to progress. If we were short on mithril, we could open up that gate and get the large cluster on the far end of there. Now that we cleared that out, we can put back on our Gaia Codex. Here, I actually decide to burn another Charm of Light. These guys are pretty dangerous. They have multi-hit fireball spells that can kill you pretty much instantly. So I decided to invest a Charm of Light on them to stop them. This is an arena with multiple waves. The first few waves you clear with Holy. Then Mithril Golems spawn. Once the Mithril Golems spawn, we swap to Necromancer for some quick Chaos Gate action. And after that, I mean, that's the end of light immune guys. So those few fights that we have with Mithril Golems are the entire reason we pick up Necromancer and invest into Dark Magic. But they're an important factor. Once we get to here, we can spike down the Dragon Bot and clear to Malzatra. This is the final save point of the game, and it leads into the final encounter of the game. So, final encounter of the game. Let's go. So, we find that Toma has been taken over by Malzatra and corrupted. You can defeat Rimshion and Ragnadam before defeating Toma. If you do, they join your team to help you. But Toma is the person you need to defeat in order to progress the fight. And once you fight Malzatra proper, you have to do it alone, so it really doesn't matter if you gain access to them. So we get pretty common movement of them moving forward, so I'm able to kill Toma immediately and progress to Malzatra. So interesting things about Malzatra. Malzatra has a lot of very dangerous attacks, does a lot of physical damage, a lot of dark mixed damage. It also has the ability to go invincible, turn into a mist cloud. That mist cloud will kill you in less than a second. It does tons of dark and physical damage. You have to run away from the mist if he turns into that. With that in mind, I have a Charm of Light. And with how powerful we are, we used to invest 2 to 3 Charms of Light for this fight. But ever since we got access to level 6 light magic, we can actually use a single Charm of Light and be totally safe during this. I get a little bit of bad luck with the movement that I get when I push him away with Gaia Nova. Ideally, you want to try to push him into a corner like he is now, and then you can just kind of unload on him. And funny enough, because he's a jerk and does this last mist, I actually missed the sub 517. But what are you going to do, you know? Sometimes that's going to happen. And that's the last fight of the game. So the last thing we need to do is just talk to Toma, and then credits roll. Funny enough, if you beat the game with Toma, there's actually like an animated cutscene that happens where he's lamenting over Cyril's fallen body before she wakes up. They kind of cheaped out on Cyril's ending. Cyril's ending is like stills. And like, oh, Toma, you're such a card. It's actually pretty ridiculous that they cheaped out on it that much, but whatever. So anyway, that was Shining Force EXA. A lot of work that I put into this game, quite frankly. I won't say that I single-handedly carried it, but for the most part, I routed this game kind of entirely on my own. The only person that I can recall that gave me significant help was Norn. I do have to give a shout out to Norn's fan club because he was on GameFAQs and he did give me access to the Steel Ancient Arena and strategies for that. Also showed me a couple of hidden items. So, but like I put a ton of hours into just figuring out how I wanted to approach this game. And I'm really glad that he came in to really break the game wide open and help all of my routing kind of come to fruition in a cohesive way. And I'm pretty glad with how this has worked out. So once again, I could definitely do light route, I could do fire route. I feel that I could do either of them consistently in under 6 hours. If I was allowed a pre-baked save, I could easily drop the estimate because I wouldn't have to be concerned about RNG being brutal to me inside of the Steel Ancient Arena. As mentioned, I've never had a manipulation for all of the stuff for Steel Ancient Arena take more than 30 minutes. The other manipulations are relatively quick to do. You usually can get Sane Armor within 5 to 6 resets or less, and I usually get the white dress +4 or higher in 3 or less. But that's going to do it for this submission video for Shining Force EXA. Probably put these all in a playlist and post it inside of the submission thread. Thank you for watching. See you another time.